is Dr. Myers, Dr. Derm. Hello, welcome. So hyperhidrosis, excess sweating. This can be a disorder or it can be a social annoyance. Disorder sounds pretty dramatic, but you could just have a ton of sweating and you could sweat everywhere, or you could just sweat a lot in your armpits, or you could just sweat on your hands and feet. It all depends. So hyperhidrosis is within this realm. You could be mild, you could be severe. First off, let's just talk about armpits. What do? So most of the time we're starting with what you've already done at home, which is deodorant or antiperspirant. You're trying to block these pores, which are usually eccrine glands that are bringing sweat to the surface. Beyond deodorants, we'd go to like clinical strength deodorants, which are still over the counter, prescription deodorants. So you could have Drysol or Hypercare, which is aluminum chloride hexahydrate, which is just basically a stronger blocker of the sweat ducts. By the way, we use that a lot of times at night. And we probably don't use that every night because you can get irritation around the outside of the armpit. So you can use like ointment or Vaseline if need be. So then probably the next level would be some new treatments like topical glycopyrrolate. And that basically is a anticholinergic that you can use topically on your skin. And you can find that compounded. There's actually Qbrexza, which is a prescription product that you can use, but that can be helpful also. So the next level up would be iontophoresis. Iontophoresis is using electrical current to disrupt temporarily sweating in an area. We use this sometimes for hands, and you basically every day for 10-15 minutes you have your hands on, say, a pad that uses this little current that doesn't hurt, but it basically inhibits electrical conduction through these sweat glands for the next 12 hours or 24 hours. It usually doesn't last longer than a day, but temporarily it's a pretty cool thing. And they even have pads that you can use in the armpits. And then the next level up, it could be even like Botox. So Botox or any of the neuromodulators or neurotoxins basically block the signal through the nerve that says, hey, release sweat. It's pretty amazing because you can, by using Botox in your armpits or even hands and feet, it's painful in those areas. But most of the time in the armpits, you can block a lot of the sweating for at least almost completely for 6 months. And then you have a lot less for the next 6 months. I've noticed that over time, if I do Botox, that you get some atrophy of, I think, the eccrine glands, the muscles that do the sweat, because I think repeated use of neuromodulator in the armpits, you basically have a baseline of less sweating. So you're not always having to do this, every 9 months to 12 months, basically. The next level up is probably to use a laser, which is called mirror dry. Mirror dry is microwave that you use in the armpits to basically heat up and destroy the channels that bring the sweat out. Incredibly effective. It decreases sweating, at least at the get-go, over 90%. I'd say over time it's not as perfect as 90%, but almost everybody this works, at least very good. Some people fantastic, some great, some very good. It's just rare that you get an okay. Like most people really appreciate this treatment. It's usually one treatment, but in a quarter of patients, it's 2 treatments. And those are, spread out by at least a year. Usually not paid by insurance, but it's a great technology that we've had for a decade, and it can be an absolute game changer. Now, when they first marketed mirror dye, they marketed to hyperhidrosis patients. It's a small subset where those who have almost, an abundant amount, their hands can almost be dripping, or their armpits are so often, wet from getting perspiration from on their shirts. But they realized later, hey, we're missing a whole segment of patients, which is basically lifestyle sweating. Like, what if we could have it so that every suit coat, I'm not sweating like crazy? So they're targeting, 20-year-olds and, late teenagers, and certainly those in their 20s and 30s and 40s in the working class that want to diminish a lot of their sweat in their armpits. What's probably the biggest downside is the cost. I mean, currently I think it's $2,200 or $2,400 for a treatment, and that's pretty typical. But the thumbs up worth it scale of those who've done it approaches 95%, which is very, very high for a procedure. I think the last thing would be a surgery that cardiothoracic surgeons do, which they do a vagal nerve ablation, or they basically a vagotomy. They cut the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve carries parasympathetic messages from the brain to the body to do a lot of things, a lot of autonomic things, including sweating. This can be a game changer for sweating the armpits, hands, and feet. In about over 5% of patients, you can have an increase of sweating. You have bad effects from this vagus nerve, and you really can't go back from that. So it's obviously up on the list. I don't do it, but occasionally somebody who's affected so much by sweating, especially functional things like they can't touch paper without it like sticking to their hands, this can be a game changer. Next up on the list would probably be oral anticholinergic medications that decrease sweating. Oral glycopyrrolate is a typical one. There are other ones, but we'll stick with that for now. And this basically stops sweating everywhere. And it sounds amazing because you're like, yeah, bring it. I don't want to sweat through my head and scalp and hair and armpits and feet and all these areas. The only problem is it stops all secretions. So we're talking about your eyes can get a little dry when you get on higher doses. Your mouth is going to get a little dry when you're on higher doses. Your nose and any of the orifices basically get dry. I like to say that it's a great social type of a treatment, so that temporarily for 5 or 6 hours you don't want to have sweating, or you're going to a function or something. This is an amazing way that you can stop all secretions. And I'd say maybe chew some gum, and usually the eyes are okay for short term on one of these medicines. But that's a cool option that's dirt cheap, but the side effects probably keep it from everybody using it all the time. Hyperhidrosis, got nothing on us. Let's fix it. Thanks for watching.